Hello nippies, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, hi, hello, I'm Nips, a freelance artist, and today I'm going to be working on a portrait that I'm doing for Team Liquid. And if you don't know who that is or what these are, I'll give you a quick TLDR. I work for an esports company called Team Liquid, and they have a multitude of professional content creators, video game players across all sorts of video games, and I do portraits for monthly articles that they write on their website Liquid Plus. The series is Player of the Month, and it features, of course, one of their content creators, and I draw them featuring whatever content they usually cover. And so I've done several of them already. I do have some speed paints up on the channel covering some of them too, so I'll go ahead and link those down below if you guys are interested in looking at them. Today we're going to be working on Tiffae. She is a Valorant player, and here you'll see her featuring a character that she chose, Viper. This piece I'm actually really sad because the files got super corrupted as I was filming them. So for this speed paint, I do have a Psd file analysis at the end of the video because there is a lot of footage missing. So I tried to compensate with at least that. So if you're ever curious on how I organize my files, my folders and everything, then I do recommend checking out the end of the video. I'll probably put a timestamp so that way if you're just interested in that, you can just skip right over. But yeah, there will be that at the end of this video. For this one, I actually committed pretty heavily to a pose at the beginning, which you see I basically scrapped, and I really liked the original pose and Liquid also liked the pose, but I wasn't satisfied with how undynamic it was. So I really wanted to showcase a little bit more of the outfit, the character's characteristics, Tiffae as well, show her a little bit more, just show some more features. I feel like face on angle, first of all, not my specialty, and two, I just feel like there's so much more to show at a 3/4 angle. I wanted to incorporate Viper in a way that was still not straying too far from real life, if that makes any sense. I think I talk about this several times in my other portraits, where when I'm drawing these professional players or content creators, I try my best to not straight up turn them into the character, because then I kind of lose the essence of the player or the content creator themselves. And so here I had a really cool idea to turn the hoodie into kind of like a Viper themed hoodie. Of course, I had to make sure that she had Viper's iconic mask, and I wanted to give her the flask, the poison flask bottle capsule. Oh no, I'm gonna get ripped apart by people who play Valorant. One of the things I do mention in most of the speed paints of these is that the Liquid Plus logo is rainbow. It has like a rainbow theme, and so I do have to incorporate the Liquid Plus logo and colors somewhere. So I figured that the capsule was a good place to put it. I'm just really happy about how this one turned out, because if you guys watched the last one that I did, I talked about how I struggle sometimes, especially in series of drawings where I have to make sure that the style is somewhat consistent and they look like they belong together. I tend to kind of lose the plot. As of the last two that I've been doing of these, I've felt like I've lost the plot a little bit, and so I feel like with this one I really brought it back kind of to the original. And you'll see there that I have a hidden layer of Scream, which was another player that I drew, was the first one actually, and I had it there to remind me of where I started, the style that I started with, and where I really wanted to go back to make sure that I kind of stuck to the roots. Not that I'm trying to limit myself, but I definitely want to make sure I don't lose myself at least. This picture also was a really good example of feedback and why being open to feedback is so important, and not just feedback itself, but kind of being flexible, especially with your own art style. I had a similar issue when I drew Slissa and Savitz, where my art style and the way I depict things can possibly not match what the content creators' wishes or views of themselves might be, or not just that, but they might see something in your style that might not look right to them. And so you'll see here the side of her back hand and the back part of her front hand are exaggerated to my style, and to me, I'm so used to it that I don't necessarily see anything wrong with it. Not that there is anything in particular wrong with it, but I can see how it could be kind of wonky. So you'll see probably later, if it didn't corrupt by then, that I actually shave off the side of her backhand and exaggerate her front hand a little bit less, make it look a little more normal. It really does a good job of bringing down the exaggeration while still maintaining my own style in it. We had to have a middle ground person kind of mediate, because Tiffae couldn't really articulate what exactly she didn't like about it. She was like, there's just something about it that is just awkward and I don't really like it. We had a Liquid member who was in the group as well, who is an artist too, and she just came up with the genius idea of the hands, and once I did do that, then it actually just worked and everybody was happy with it. And I was like, wow, something so subtle could really make a whole difference. Being open to that feedback and having several eyes on it, especially when you're just so used to seeing your own thing, can really help boost your art into a new level in the most subtlest of ways sometimes. And now that I'm painting the face here, another piece of advice that I had from a good friend, Moondrops, who is also an artist, I'll probably link all their stuff down below, you should definitely check them out. She mentioned how Tiffae actually puts her blush not necessarily at the top of her cheekbones, but at the bottom, like the center of her cheek. And that alone was so huge because it made it look so much more like her. So you'll see there that I put the blush right under her eyes in the corner, but I do that instinctively. Like I sometimes like just don't even think about it, I just do it. And then as I was asking for feedback, she was like, wait, like that's not actually where she puts her blush. And switching that just made such a huge difference. I don't know, this piece, like I'm so proud of it and I really love how it came out, but I'm so proud of the behind the scenes, which I feel like should be kind of a given. Like you should try to look at your pieces and kind of like outside of yourself in order to really analyze it and bring it to the next level. But I don't know, like they were able to point out things that I truly had not thought about, because I do have certain things that I autopilot without realizing. And those were two such small things that really opened my eyes for the future. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it either way. We're gonna roll right into the Psd analysis, so hopefully you'll enjoy that too. All right, so here we are with the Player of the Month Tiffae Psd Analysis. So as I was recording this, my computer, like I said, was blue screening a lot and we lost a lot of progress on the recording for this. So I thought it would be kind of cool to go over my Psd files and kind of give you a breakdown of what it looks like throughout the process and how it is that I go about working on all of this. So I'm gonna go ahead and basically remove everything so that way we can start from scratch. So here I have obviously a blank white canvas, and then I have this gradient that I use for all of my Player of the Month drawings just to kind of save the finished product. Obviously I send them the finished product, transparent background, so it'll look something like this. And then in order to save for aesthetics on my website, I try to save them all with the same gradient. Before we do any of that, we've got the sketches. So the original sketch for this was actually very, very different than what I ended up with. I had something that looked like this, which was going to be really, really fun, but I wanted something a lot more dynamic. And so I decided to abandon this and kind of go with something more with more movement and more depth. And then this was me after I refined it just a little bit. And then I decided that I really just wanted something. Oh, here we go. Here was me kind of messing with the details and seeing if I actually want to go through with this. And then I came up with this one. And when I came up with this one, I really just fell in love with it. Normally I will do thumbnails. So I don't always do thumbnails, but as of late I do thumbnails unless I have kind of like a spur the moment idea that I already know more or less how I want it to go. So these kind of I already knew how I wanted them to go. So no need for thumbnails. And I normally will sketch in a very light blue, teal, those types types of cool colors. And then I'll do something called an S. So you see that my folder layer here is lowercase s. And then as the layers get more complicated, I will call them S1, S2, S3, S4, and each layer will get more and more refined. Normally, I don't know what it is about my brain, but I've basically just gotten used to doing like teal. My S2s will normally be in this kind of like indigo, kind of very saturated blue indigo color. And then normally I will do red for S3s. I don't know why my brain works that way, but I've already kind of solidified that process for myself. And then I just kind of like came up with this. I was actually so confident in this one that I went straight to the line art from there, which normally doesn't happen, but I actually really liked how that sketch turned out, so I went straight to the line art. I went ahead and I found the flat colors here. So for those of you that don't know, this is kind of like a mask group layer, and it's super useful because you can basically mark what area you want everything in that folder to cover. So this white area that you see here, everything in this folder will not pass that white area. So if you see me going like this, you see how this is white here, and we've extended this little, I don't know if you can see it here, but we've basically extended the space. Let me do something really obvious. So you see how we've extended this little piece here, and so now like every color that I've drawn now extends in this folder, extends to that little part there. So it's very useful if you're someone that just likes to do a lot of layers. And most of the time we do this. I used to do this instead of doing a folder. I used to just do this where you clip it to the layer below, and we know how chaotic that gets if you're a digital artist and you work with this sort of thing a lot. So I highly recommend converting over to not just like mask group folders, but also just masking your individual layers too, because oh my goodness, once you get the hang of it, you just want to mask everything. This little thing right here, you just go ahead and select the area and then add your little vector mask and you're good to go. And so I'm gonna go ahead and give you what the flat colors look like. So they look a little something like this. I went ahead and did the original Liquid Plus logos. I have my reference layers up here. I have this one showing because this is the first one that I ever did, and I really like the art style of this. So I always try to keep my old pieces as a reference to make sure that I don't stray too far from the general theme of all the drawings. And then we've got the Liquid Plus logo here. So I went ahead and I dropped all the colors and then did kind of like a ripple filter effect up here. And it looked kind of cool, so I went ahead and kept it. And so once I do that, I start with kind of my base shadow, which is just the shadow that covers the largest area. So there's not that many details you'll see. It's usually just a backlight, rim light shadow. These portraits just look really cool with rim lighting. So, and if you don't know what that is, it's basically just like most of your drawing is in shadow, and then you just have a rim of light around them, basically. So very easy to do, looks very pretty and cinematic. So I typically will do that for these portraits. Then I have something called SH2. You'll notice that I really like the idea of the same named layers with numbers that increase in complexity. So my SH is my basic shadow layer, and then my SH2 is like my more detailed shadows. So you'll see here I added it to the nose, a little bit to the cheeks, add some like extra hair, some jacket ones, and I try not to add too much because, as I've said in previous speed paints of these videos, like I want to keep it very simple. So I try to make sure to just add very crucial shadows, and that's it. Then after that, I do something called an SC layer, which is my screen layer, and that's where I put kind of either the backlighting, the rebound lighting, or sometimes I will use it for my rim light. At this point, I've already added this to kind of add the ambiance, because most of the time they use a dark background. So I've kind of put this just to kind of see more or less where we're getting at. The white is too much contrast, so at this point I want to kind of make it a little bit easier on the eyes. Then the next one is my, this is a screen layer that I've done in order to push this arm back. Sometimes I'll do it on top of the line art so that way we can wash the line art out, but sometimes I'll just like change the color of the line art. So this one is not like a super regular thing that I do. Like I normally don't make a dedicated layer to it like this. I will just make it on top of the line art. And then we've got our linear dodge, which is my actual rim lighting. This one will depend on what I'm feeling at the time. Normally I can do linear dodge. I can do just dodge, or I can do hard light, vivid light. There's a lot of different types of layer formats that really work for the rim lighting. I really like linear dodge is the strongest one from what I see, so I go for that one sometimes. And then we've got an overlay layer here, which I really like to add to the outlines of my linear dodge layer to just kind of add that little extra oomph. So you'll see here that I added kind of like a yellowish, greenish kind of border to my linear dodge. Then I duplicate my line art layer, add some Gaussian blur, and then I put it on color burn, just add some really nice dimension. And then I went ahead in this layer. I have it titled Fix, but sometimes I call it Fix because I'm essentially drawing on top of lines. So I will put anything in this folder that I'm painting over. So normally when I draw, I finish up the painting by merging everything. And sometimes instead of like completely going from layered to merge, I'll do kind of like an in-between step where I make this folder called Fix. And there I'll do like little tiny things before I fully commit to merging everything. So here you'll see that I kind of like fixed her face, fixed the width of her face, added some highlights, fixed the shadows, added some light, like some light there, and then I added the border outside of this in order to really give it that separation, that dimension separation. And then here, I didn't name it, but this is the layer where everything goes together. So normally I just get rid of this. Let's get rid of everything below so you guys can see what it looks like. Let's make this shorter here. Hide this, hide this. We've got a blank canvas, and then we start with this. So let's go in order so you guys can see. So this, I normally will just have a spare of the original, so I'll copy everything, put it in there, and then we'll start working. So here you'll see that I've adjusted the color a little bit, and this is what we get. So from here to here. So then here I like warped it a little bit. See that, like I warped it, and then I went back on the color as well. Then I came here and we blurred just this arm here to like push it into the foreground so it's not like super obvious, and we can really focus more on her face rather than the arm. And then we duplicated that. You see we kind of messed with the colors more. We added some greens, we color burned a bit, and then we fixed the colors again, made sure that it was more readable from far away, there wasn't so much contrast, so much green. And then we fixed the blush, the cheek blush, and we fixed her arms and her hands here, which looked a little bit awkward, as she said. And then we added our chromatic aberration to really get the final there. And because she's playing Viper, we did the little smoke in the back here, which we did a vector mask of. So we got this basic gradient here, some shadows, we did some motion blur, and then we did the chromatic aberration here as well. And that is how we arranged everything in the PSD file for this piece. So hopefully that was interesting. I know this is like, I'm not very technically good with Photoshop, so I'm sure there are a lot more things I could be optimizing, and this isn't like super organized, but Photoshop organization and effects is something that you're interested in. Hopefully this was somewhat helpful or interesting. I'm sorry again that I did not have that much footage for this. My computer kept blue screening, so hopefully this was a nice compensation to that. Let me know what you guys thought down below. I'll put the links of all the player of the month portraits that I've done down below, the articles, the finished product of this one as well. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments. Like, subscribe, join the Nippy family. The more the merrier, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.